Okay, yesterday we introduced our new standard that we're starting to work with in our unit of study. And I do have to come over here and change this. We're in session 2 today of our unit. But we're still working on the same standard. Specifically, we're working on part A of our writing standard 3.9. And what we're working on is we're trying to describe the depth of the character, the depth of the setting, the depth of events that happen. So when we talk about depth, we talk about looking even further. And we kind of saw that yesterday when we were noticing the difference between just reading a book and reading a book to analyze. So we learned that when you are reading a book to analyze, you're stopping. You're asking yourself, why did the author do this? What is the author trying to tell me? So following very closely and analyzing the author's craft, the author's word choice, and looking really deeply into what each and every sentence is trying to say. It's a very different way of reading. We're not just reading to find out what happens next. We're reading for depth. We're going deeper. We're diving deeper into the story. Today, I want to teach you that a skilled reader pays close attention to the characters. How many characters do we have in our book, Fox? How many characters? Aiden?
3.
3. Give me the name of one of them, Lorenzo.
Fox.
Fox is one of them. Give me another one, Galila.
Magpie.
Magpie. Give me another one, Haley. Dog. So we have fox, we have magpie, we have dog. 3 characters. Now, what does it mean when it says, our chart says, to pay attention to the characters? What does that mean? Well, it means that we focus on certain things. All right, and so we're going to talk about this right here. First, inner thoughts and feelings. Now, inner thoughts and feelings, let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger. Inner thoughts and feelings, that refers to what they're thinking and feeling in that moment. And we only know this with a couple of cues. First, sometimes the author will actually tell you what the character is thinking or feeling. But sometimes we have to infer it. We have to look at the body language of the character, what the character is doing. For example, we see Magpie, when Fox enters the picture, we see Magpie trembling. We see Magpie shrinking away. We can also infer what Magpie might be thinking or feeling by looking at the words that she speaks to Dog. So inner thoughts and feelings can sometimes be explicit, which means that the author actually tells you straight out, letting you get into the head of that character. But sometimes you also, it's implicit, it's not right there, it's something you need to infer. Okay, let's look at the next thing on our list of things that we pay attention to. Spoken words, dialogue, what the character says. Are you jotting down this chart? Spoken words. And again, sometimes we can gain information from exactly what they said as words, but sometimes we have to kind of think about the situation that they're in. Because we all know, because we do this ourselves, that sometimes we say things in certain situations, especially if we feel stressed or frustrated. So inner thoughts and feelings, spoken word. Choices. Choices. We all have choices to make. We all have choices to be rude or respectful. Okay, and when we make those kinds of choices, it's telling us about the character, what kind of person they are. The next one, how other characters react to the character. So when that character enters a scene, what do the other characters do? How do the other characters respond to that character? And we want to be very specific, and we also want to take all of that information in to consideration when we're making a judgment about that character. The physical description of the character. What does the character look like? Is the way the character looks now different from the way the character has appeared before? Think about somebody who always looks really put together, their hair is combed, their clothes are clean, all right? They're together, but one day they show up and their hair is a mess and their clothes are all wrinkled. There's something different here. There's something else going on here. So physical description is also important to pay attention to. Okay, character traits. And guys, we're going to do a lot more with character traits in our readers workshop because our readers unit is about interpreting a character. So in this way, both of these lessons that we're learning in both readers and writers are going to go together. Now remember, a personality trait is not an emotion. It's the kind of person. You know, when we watched our Boosterthon video this morning about caring and riding horses and learning how to care for others, it made me think about dog and how dog is caring and helpful. And those are personality traits or character traits. Okay, so we want to think about those as we are trying to make interpretations of the character, paying attention to the character. Okay, the next one is motivations. Motivations. A motivation is what gets you to do that. What is driving you to make that decision, to act in that way? Are you stopping to hold the door for your teacher because that's just what you do with everybody? Or are you doing it because you want the teacher to like you so that you get a good grade? Okay? What is motivating you to do that? Are you practicing your fluency, your math fluency every night? Are you motivated to get a better grade? Right? Do you want to be successful? So what motivates that character to do the things they're doing? We certainly could do a lot of speculation about what motivated Fox to compliment Dog, what motivated Fox to talk to and whisper to Magpie. We can certainly think about what motivated him. We can also look at what motivated Magpie to leave Dog. Why did she make that choice? Okay, so motivations. Struggles. Struggles. We all have struggles. Even if we look like we are always successful, we all have struggles. But sometimes it's the way that the character handles those struggles that tells us about them. If you encounter a struggle and you put your head down and cry, okay, that tells us something about you as a person. But if you have a struggle and you're determined and you're persistent and you keep trying, trying even though you're not successful, that tells us something else about you. All right, so we want to make sure that we're paying attention. Changes in thinking, or choices that are made, or ways in which that character conducts themselves. How does the character change from the beginning of the story to the end? And what causes that change? Life lessons. Now, when we're talking about life lessons, what we're talking about is lessons learned. Okay? That goes along with the changes. Once you experience a certain situation and get a certain outcome from it, then the next time you're in that situation, you may react differently. So we're thinking about, what did the character learn from this experience? What did the character learn from this experience? We can certainly think about what Magpie may have learned from this experience. What Dog may have learned from his experience in losing his eye. Okay. So it seems like a very long list of things to pay attention to as we're reading our story. But in reality, if we are reading the way that we were reading yesterday, reading, knowing that we are going to be analyzing, and in this case, we're going to be analyzing the character, then we're already going to be looking for all of these things. So remember, the point of our lesson, the teaching point of our lesson yesterday was that we read differently when we know we are going to be analyzing. Remember our standard. We are reading to look for the things that we can pull from the text to analyze both the author's craft and the characters. So we want to make sure that we're paying close attention to that. Now today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the story again. And I want you to pay close attention to the characters this time. And remember, at the beginning, I asked you to leave like 3 blanks. So right now, I want you to put the name of each of our 3 characters at the top of each of those 3 pages. So I asked you to leave 3 blank pages. So right at the top of one, you need to put Dog. At the top of the other, you need to put Magpie. At the top of the third, you need to put Dog. And this time when we read our book, we're going to pay close attention to the characters. Yes, ma'am. I did. I apologize. Dog, Magpie, and Fox. Dog, Magpie, and Fox. Okay, so as I'm reading the story, you're going to make sure that when something is happening with Fox, you're on that page and you're jotting down. And remember, guys, you need to be thinking about the fact that we know at the end of this bend, we're going to be writing an essay, and we're going to need to have evidence to support our ideas, and that evidence has to come right from the text. So as you're hearing things, as you're seeing it on the screen, you're going to be looking for quotes that you can pull from the text to support your thinking. All right, so let's go ahead and read. And remember, we're paying close attention to the characters today. charred forest, over hot ash, runs dog with a bird clamped in his big, gentle mouth. So everybody's on the page about dog. Hopefully you've written down the word gentle. And maybe what you're thinking about when you see that word gentle. Hopefully you're thinking about the fact that dog is running over hot ground. So not only is he being gentle and caring, but he's actually putting himself in a very uncomfortable position, probably maybe even injuring his own paws by running over the hot ash in order to rescue this bird. And if you remember from yesterday, our analysis, we talked about dog and what the author is trying to say about the use of that word gentle and about the fact that the dog is running over a very hot ground. He takes her to his cave above the river, and there he tries to tend her burnt wing. And I love that word tend. When you're tending somebody, you're caring for them. So we already have two words that were being used in order to describe this character. But Magpie does not want his help. So I hope you're flipping over to Magpie. Your page on Magpie. She does not want his help. I will never again be able to fly, she whispers. And now we have dog reacting to her comment. So you're back to the dog page. I know. Jaden, are you following along with us? Okay. I know, says dog. He is silent for a moment. So think about that for a minute. He's silent for a moment. Here we might be able to infer what he's doing. Okay, so think about sometimes when you pause before responding to something, what you're doing. You might be able to infer something by the fact that he is silent for a moment. Then he says, I am blind in one eye, but life is still good. And here's spoken words, remember? This may be an opportunity for you to quote the text. Dog says, I am blind in one eye, but life is still good. And then we go back to Magpie. An eye is nothing, says Magpie. How would you feel if you couldn't run? From here we can kind of infer what Magpie might be thinking. Remember our conversation yesterday when we talked about how an injured animal in the outback is going to be a prime target for predators. Dogs can escape a predator by running. Birds, on the other hand, escape their predators by flying. Dog can still run, but Magpie can't fly. And then we have dog. Dog does not answer. And then here's Magpie's action. This is her action. This is her choice. Magpie drags her body into the shadow of the rocks until she feels herself melting into blackness. And we talked about how that melting into blackness kind of gives us, again, that image of the fire. Heat causes things to melt. The blackness and the charred forest, the charred, dark, black ash in the forest. Days, perhaps a week later, she wakes with a rush of grief. So here are her feelings. She's feeling grief. Grief is a strong sadness that we feel as a result of a loss. In her case, the loss of her wing. And then Dog is waiting. And we talked yesterday about what those words written by Margaret Wilde are trying to tell us about Dog. So you need to write that down. That's a quote that should come and appear to support your idea. What is that telling you about Dog? He persuades her to go with him to the river. So think about that for a minute. What does that tell you about Dog? That he's able to persuade her to go to the river when she's feeling all this grief and she's crawled into the cave to melt into blackness. But somehow he's able to talk her into going down to the river. What is that telling you about Dog? You should be jotting down your thinking. You're going to want that thinking when you go to write your essay. Hop on my back, he says. Look into the water and tell me what you see. Sighing, Magpie does as he asks. Reflected in the water are clouds and sky and trees and something else. I see a strange new creature, she says. You know, I was just thinking about another author's craft that I've never really seen before this book, in the fact that the words are written, sometimes they're written with, where we have to turn the page sideways, okay? When we get to the next page, we'll see we have to turn it around to see the other side. And it made me think, this text is written so that you have to look at different perspectives, right? You have to take a different perspective in order to be able to read the story. And I'm sure that was done deliberately. So even just the way the text appears on the page can be telling us something. I see a strange new creature, she says. That, notice I had to turn the book around. That is us, says Dog. Now hold on tight. With Magpie clinging to his back, he races through the scrub, past the stringy barks, past the clumps of yellow box trees, and into blueness. We talked about that unusual use of a color word to express something. What does blueness represent? What does blueness, does it cast a mood? Make you feel something? Is it in contrast? Blue is cool. Red is hot. Sometimes on a faucet, you'll even see that, where the marking for the hot side of the faucet is red and the cool side is blue. See that in your car as well. cool side is for the air conditioning. It's blue. And the red side for heat. He runs so swiftly, it is almost as if he were flying. Magpie feels the wind streaming through her feathers. And she rejoices. Fly, dog, fly. I will be your missing eye, and you will be my wings. I'm going to leave that up there for a second because I know you all want to copy that so that you can have it. I will be your missing eye, and you will be my wings. There's certainly a lot you can interpret from those words that Magpie says. I will be your missing eye, and you will be my wings. And so Dog runs with Magpie on his back every day. And remember from yesterday's reading, we noticed that he runs every single day with Magpie for 3 seasons. Through summer, through winter, and then it says, after the rains, when saplings are springing up everywhere, a fox comes into the bush. So when Margaret Wilde is writing this, she's letting you know that Dog does this every day, and he has been doing it for 3 seasons. For 3/4 of the year he does this. And that's, again, where you do that analytical reading and you stop to ask yourself, what is Margaret Wilde trying to tell me about Dog? What are you learning about Dog from these sentences? So jot down your thinking on the Dog page. And then now we have Fox. So we should turn to our Fox page. Fox with his haunted eyes. Haunted. So I think about what would cause somebody's eyes to be haunted. A lot of times, if someone has had some kind of an event in their life that has hurt them, they might have haunted eyes. You can see the hurt in their eyes. So even though we don't see Fox with a physical disability, right? Because we can see clearly that Dog has a blind eye, and we can see clearly that Magpie has a burnt wing, Fox may have something emotionally that is his disability, something we can't see except through his haunted eyes. Something bothers him. He's reminded of something. So that haunted eyes needs to be on your sheet as a quote that you might use to support some of your thinking here about Fox. And notice how Margaret Wilde describes Fox, bringing us back, as we noticed yesterday, to that image of fire. Fox with his haunted eyes and rich red coat. He flickers through the trees like a tongue of fire, and Magpie trembles. So again, remember from our chart when we started this lesson, how other characters react to this character. How other characters react. She trembles. But Dog says, so you're back to Dog. Welcome. We can offer you food and shelter. So think about what you're learning about dog from these words. Welcome. We can offer you food and shelter. Thank you, says Fox. I saw you running this morning. You looked extraordinary. Notice that word extraordinary. It's made up of two words, extra, ordinary, extraordinary. And then notice how dog reacts. Dog beams, but magpie shrinks away. Now, remember we talked about inner thoughts and feelings and how sometimes we have to read those through body language. So we know that Fox complimented dog and magpie because he watched them running. We know that dog beams. He's very pleased. Think about what that's telling you about what dog might be thinking inside. When somebody beams, they kind of light up. They're animated. But magpie shrinks away. Her body language might be giving you some evidence in which to infer how she's thinking right now. She can feel Fox staring at her burnt wing. Again, those inner thoughts and feelings which might be telling you something about magpie, her reaction to Fox and what she might be thinking. In the evenings when the air is creamy with blossom, dog and magpie relax at the mouth of the cave, enjoying each other's company. Now and again, Fox joins in the conversation, but magpie can feel him watching, always watching her. Again, inner thoughts and feelings of magpie. Fox is watching her. And from everything we know from the story, you can infer what she may be thinking here, what she may be feeling here. You should be jotting down your thinking on your page. And at night, his smell seems to fill the cave. Now, I thought it was so interesting here that these are not smells. These are not smells. Rage, envy, loneliness. So Margaret Wilde is trying to tell you something about this character by choosing these words. And at night, his smell seems to fill the cave. A smell of rage and envy and loneliness. So you should be jotting down what you're learning about Fox from these words. What is the author telling you about Fox? Magpie tries to warn Dog about Fox. He belongs nowhere, she says. He loves no one. But Dog says, he's all right. Let him be. That night, when Dog is asleep, Fox whispers to Magpie, I can run faster than Dog, faster than the wind. Leave Dog and come with me. Okay, so you should be stopping and thinking about what is motivating Fox to say this? What is motivating Fox to say those words, to whisper them to Magpie when Dog cannot hear them? You should be jotting down your thinking there. And then we have the words of Magpie. Magpie says, I will never leave dog. I am his missing eye, and he is my wings. When an author repeats something, it's important. The author is trying to tell you to pay attention. So this is the second time. This is the second time. And you can infer what Magpie might be thinking here. Fox says no more that night, but the next day, when Dog is at the river, he whispers to Magpie, do you remember what it is like to fly? Truly fly? Again, you may be asked, what is motivating Fox to say this? Again, Magpie says, I will never leave Dog. I am his missing eye, and he is my wings. Third time we hear those words in the story. But later that day, as Dog runs through the scrub with Magpie on his back, she thinks in her thoughts and feelings, right? What is she thinking inside? This is nothing like flying. Nothing. So when we hear those words and those inner thoughts and feelings, what is that telling us about Magpie? You can pause here and think about, how has Magpie been changing as a character throughout the story? Magpie acted one way at the very beginning. Her behavior changed. And now her behavior is changing again. And when at dawn, Fox whispers to her for the third time, she whispers back, I am ready. While Dog sleeps, Magpie and Fox streak past Coolabah's trees. And, using that word streak, that's very quickly running, makes me think about the verbs that were used to describe the way that Dog ran. Okay? These words, this word choice here is really important because it really gives you an idea of how quickly they're moving. Streak past coolabah trees, rip through long grass, pelt over rocks. Certainly running with much more intensity than Dog did. Fox runs so fast that his feet scarcely touch the ground, and Magpie exults. At last I am flying, really flying. Fox scorches, look at that word, again, reminding us again of the fire. Fox scorches through woodlands, through dusty plains, through salt pans, and out into the hot red desert. And again, we have this color. The desert is hot. It is red. Again, reminding us of this image of fire. So you should be jotting these things down, guys. He stops, scarcely panting. So it was easy for him to do, right? There is silence between them. Neither moves, neither speaks. Think about what they might be feeling. Think about what Fox might be feeling. Think about what Magpie might be feeling. Jot down your thinking. Then Fox shakes Magpie off his back as he would a flea and pads away. He turns and looks at Magpie and he says, now you and Dog will know what it's like to be truly alone. Then he is gone. In the stillness, Magpie hears a faraway scream. She cannot tell if it is a scream of triumph or despair. So it doesn't come out and say, but we can infer that Fox screams. And we don't know if he's feeling triumph because of what he did or despair because of what he did. So stop and think a moment about what motivated Fox to do what he did. And then we're going to switch to Magpie and think about her motivation as we read the last part of the story. Magpie huddles, a scruff of feathers, adrift in heat. She can feel herself burning into nothingness. It would be so easy just to die here in the desert. So once again, she's in the fire, but this time it's the heat of a desert. And if you contrast that to the way she reacted to the other fire where she wanted to die, this is a contrast. She's acting differently. She has changed. But then she thinks of Dog. So she's not thinking of herself anymore, right? Are you jotting? Then she thinks of Dog waking to find her gone. Slowly, jiggity hop, she begins the long journey home. Okay, so go ahead and continue to jot. Excuse me. Continue to jot. That's fine. It's confusing, I get it. Okay, guys, go ahead and continue to jot. Ms. Bartley will be over here in a moment to take you to game board time. But I want you to make sure that you get as many notes as you can down now from our reading. Thinking about how Magpie, what is motivating her. Thinking about Magpie and what she's doing and how that has changed since the beginning of the story. So lots and lots of things to pay attention to as we're really carefully following our characters and paying attention to all of those things on our chart, the inner thoughts and feelings, the motivations, the challenges,